Listen, hey guys, welcome to Little Black Bird. Another one. We're talking to you guys, well, about Kerry Washington situation. She explains how she was lied to by her parents during her, I guess, 43 years of life, and she found out, I guess, through doing a test or something, that she was not her parents' child. Now, let me be very frank and very real. Her parents have obviously treated her with care, respect, love, everything like that. So they're not bad parents. They've treated her really, really well. And look at where she is right now. She's a byproduct of their great parenting. But she brings up an interesting conversation, right? Because she talks about not being able to, not necessarily blaming her parents. I think we can hold blame for parents and also say that I can be accountable for what I do in my particular life. I think we don't have to remove the blame. I think we can be empathetic. I'm empathetic to some of my parents, things that they've gone through, you know what I mean? But I have to ascribe, I've learned also to ascribe blame where blame needs to be placed. You didn't do this, but this is how it's affected me. And I feel this way, but now I have to do the work. I think we have to hold both. We can't do you don't get no blame and I have to be accountable for the rest of my life. No, you've impacted my life. And you have to be blamed for that. And when blame doesn't mean I have to condemn you, it means I ascribe effectively where there was an issue and why the issue was why that issue, what the root cause of that issue was that I have right now was because where you started. But I don't have to stay there. I didn't have to be accountable for what I've gone on to do because I'm now an adult and I have choices to make. For instance, in the Bible, Adam and Eve, right? The Bible talks about how Eve ascribed blame to Satan, the snake, and God said, you've correctly applied the blame where it's due. The snake will be what? Cursed, but she will also have some punishment for you too, right? Which is that now you're going to bear children and you're going to feel the pain that you're going to have. And Adam, because you hearken to the voice of your wife, you two are going to till the ground until you sweat. And the woman will what? Pine after her husband, and the husband will rule over thee. That's Genesis 3, okay? And all of that is because people did something, but the blame was accredited correctly. Adam didn't because he tried to put it on the woman, although he did get influenced by her. He should have been the leader of the situation. Blame does not mean that we are advocating for you to lose accountability. What it means is ascribing the correct place where that origin of a problem began in this instance, if we're talking that way. So we're going to talk a little bit about Kerry Washington and her video that she released. This little snippet, and we'll probably do a part 2 of this as well. But maybe I can get your thoughts on this as well. Maybe you disagree with my premise and what I'm saying here. Happy to discuss it. Put it in a chat. Love to talk about it. In the meantime, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. We're trying to get to 100K by the end of the year. So we're trying to put out some really great content so you guys can learn, grow, and expand your thought processes as well. So welcome to Little Black Book. You know what time it is. Don't play with it. Don't play with it.
Say something. I heard you say that parents do the best that they can, and then it's up to us to parent ourselves after that. Explain that.
Well, I think like one of the things that I've truly come to terms with in writing this book is that every choice my parents made was out of love. They weren't trying to be cruel. They weren't trying to hurt me. They really thought that this was the best choice. And so I think my parents didn't want me to feel different. They didn't want me to feel weird. They didn't want me, ironically, they didn't want me to feel distance from them, even though that's what wound up happening. So I know that they made loving choices or choices out of love, even if they didn't feel loving to me. But I think we have to, for me and my journey, it's been good to understand who they were, to have compassion for their choices. Absolutely. But I can't blame them for where I am now. Like now that I have awareness, I have to say like, okay, they gave me everything they could with as much love as they could. In the places where I feel like I don't have the tools that I needed, I didn't get the tools I needed in that household. Part of being an adult is to say, how do I give myself those tools? Right. How do I ask for help in therapy, in, reading, coaches? Like, how do I now close the gap between what they gave me and what I need? That's my responsibility as an adult. If I just sit here and continue to complain about what they didn't give me, then I'm keeping myself a child.
You did say something. I heard.
Now, my first thing to say this, if I can't ascribe blame to you, I also cannot ascribe praise to you. If I cannot ascribe blame to you, I also cannot ascribe praise to you. The reason why I am the way I am, and if you're winning as the way you are, Kerry Washington, the way that you're so educated, the way that you're so expressive and the way you conduct yourself and the way you move, if I can't blame you for some of the negative traits that you've got from observing what you saw and what you've been taught, then I also can't ascribe a praise to your parents either. They have to go hand in hand. So whilst I understand what she's saying, I think for what I saw in the comments, some people were disagreeing. The reason why is because some parents don't make decisions out of love. So I can understand why they were frustrated, right? And I love her disposition though, where she says, I'm understanding where my parents are coming from. And so I'm understanding that the decisions were based on love. And she can say that because of the way she's been reared. And we can see that. She's a wholesome person, as we can see. Now, she might have her issues like every human being, but she's a wholesome person, it seems like, for as far as we can see. So the parenting clearly worked. In amongst that, there were some things that happened to her where she didn't feel as connected to her parents. Her parents wanted her to feel connected, to be part of the family. So they didn't tell her the truth about where her origin was. But instinctively, she felt it. Now, of course, for her personally, like she's describing, and she made a very good point, if I can, and I think the word blame is the wrong thing, but if I continue to keep blaming, in a sense of, if I continue in the current place that I'm in right now to only blame, but not take accountability is what we should have said. If I only continue to blame and complain about where I am without taking no accountability for why I am doing what I'm doing right now, then I'm missing a mark. For instance, I'm very much a person that is not, sometimes I can be emotionally detached because I have a dismissive attachment style. That's not my fault. That's not my fault, right? That is how I was reared. Now, what I do in adulthood is my fault. Regardless whether I know it or not, I have to be accountable for the decisions I'm about to make. And I'm at a stage in my life too where I'm also cognizant and aware that, hey, that you pull away from people. You know that you don't let people get close to you. Therefore, at that point, I also cannot ascribe blame to the parents. I can ascribe the origin of where it comes from. I cannot sit continually and blame them and say, I wish my parents had no. At that point, I have to say, well, what's the work that I need to do to change the narrative? So I agree with her absolutely, because if you stay in a place of complete blame and complain, then you will stay in a place of disdain where you will never be able to look at a situation effectively. She got it absolutely right. You don't want to be a child continuously. You're an adult now. You have to think like an adult. And so therefore, but I think one thing I'm learning on my journey too, and someone pulled it out of me a couple of years ago actually, where I was telling a story about my upbringing, and I was just so like, no, I know where my parents are coming from. I get why they are the way they are. Da, 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 da. And the person was like, well, you do know you have to actually say what they did, and actually you can call it out. And I was like, well, there's no point calling it out, because in reality, it doesn't change my position. Like, I am the way I am. I'm doing what I'm doing. I've got to take responsibility. And while you do have to take responsibility and accountability for your life, we also don't have to vacate the space of blame for your parents lying to you for 42 years. They lied to you. Whether they loved you or not, they lied to you. That's like our government telling us we're doing this for your benefit. But in reality, what was happening is you are having panic attacks. You were thinking that you weren't part of this family. You were actually suffering because you didn't know the truth. Your body was telling you something, but you didn't know. Now, of course, maybe the first few years, it might have been too early to tell you. You might not be able to comprehend. I get it. But you get to like 7, 8, 9, 10. You may not have to fully conceptualize, but you understand something. And what that would allow you to do then is just begin to be able to reason with your reality. That doesn't mean your parents are bad people. It just means that the decision that they made, we can see it retrospectively and we can actually judge it. Simple. But let me know, you guys, your thoughts down below. Do you agree with what I'm saying, or do you disagree? Do you think Kerry Washington was absolutely right in what she said? Do you stand with her? Maybe do you understand where I'm coming from? Do you disagree with what I'm saying, right? Like, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts down below. It would be interesting to have this conversation with you.